Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly, into the light of the cold black night. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly, into the light of the cold black night. It's very special to me. It was a favorite shared song between a friend of mine who's no longer with us. I'm glad the Galgamex Catholics finally got a pope of their own. You know, the ancient practice of having a land father to cooperate with the sky father, God, existing in an unbroken chain to this day, is pretty cool. That's alright. Leo the 14th is an excellent choice. He could have gone Paul the 7th, and it would have been so Jover. Leo the 13th is one of my favorite popes. He declared Anglicanism and their Virgin Queen to be heretical pageantry. He despised Freemasons, but he was also a proponent of personal modesty and self-sacrifice. This is a very nice book of his on humility. And I believe that to usher in, for lack of better words, I'm no usher, the reign of Pope Leo the 14th, even though he may not be perfect, still a step in the right direction. It's like a centrist choice, right? He's not going to appeal to extremists on either side. But so far, the showing has been pretty good. And I think I'm going to read this book for the channel on humility by Pope Leo the 13th. Funny enough, the OG Masons are legitimately the first sex with refugees is beautiful and jasmine-scented people. That's how they've always operated. And I personally believe that Israel feels very much entitled to be the spiritual successor to that movement. Whether Prevost is a proponent of kindness to immigrants or a Novus Ordo torch holder for the Masons is unclear. Funny enough, the main bishop of my organization comes from the exact same area of Chicago Prevost does. It's a good sign. It's a good sign. And on the hot topic issues, on the diet, gay people getting married is like D tier on the list of issues. Zionists controlling most major United States cities with Chicago as its definitive brain. Propagating crime and rheumatism is an A or S tier issue. It's very important, and to have this guy come, Leo the 14th, come from Chicago, means that he might genuinely have the main issues of the day in his mind, in his experience, such as I do living in Florida now, such as I do experiencing strange things on kiwi farms, which a lot of other people are too. But most importantly, anybody living in Chicago who isn't like actively in a Jewish family, like either dating into it, married into it, or, you know, inherited, they're probably a little bit aware of what exactly is going on and why Chicago is both the murder capital of the United States and effectively its brain, the place where all the number one political guys are striving to be, where Obama's building his library. Chicago itself was kind of the heart of the nation back in the early 20th century, whereas New York itself was the heart of the country in the mid 1800s. I would say that they've fallen off significantly. But here's the big thing about Prevost. Is he part of the group of people over the last decade that has made Chicago a better place to live than it was 10 years ago? Or is he exactly part of the problem, granting legitimacy to one of the most backwards and insane and evil parts of this world, where you have like African warlord level skirmishes on the street every day, and simultaneously you have some of the most bizarre politics in the middle stria of Chicago society. So this guy effectively being Pope is now top level Chicago alumni, and he's got a lot of hope. Got a lot of hope in this Pope, unless he reverses Vatican II, the second synod, the second ecumenical council, the synod on synodality. Synod, by the way, traces its roots back to Senate, but also it traces its roots back to Soviet. So it's a big thing where they opened up a lot of the process by which decisions get made officially and authoritatively in the Catholic Church to a much larger portion of people than the people who earn their authority. And it isn't just about that, but the consequences and the actions declared, especially by popes like John Paul II, a truly evil, demonic man. Mind you, Francis was a monster too. Francis covered up dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of pedophilic rapes. He protected people that should never be protected, and he encouraged this system to happen. All the while, he felt more wind in his sail going after traditional Catholics practicing the Latin Mass than he did going after pedophiles in his own organization. Francis was a monster. Still not as bad as John Paul II. A true, genuine, evil, turn Catholicism into a pedophile cult monster. But also, the champion of Vatican II, the champion of Masonic infiltration into the Vatican. Simple as. If you have the Masons in the Vatican, you don't need communism in the Vatican. All the Operation Gladio fans and defenders out there, you don't need communism in Italy if you have the Masons. You don't need it. Straight up, you don't need it. The benefactors are exactly the same, and we can all visibly see who the benefactors of both of those systems are this day. Right, so, moving on. There are two modes of internet talk show. That's streaming and podcasts. Now, podcasts can be done right, but it needs a central rail for everybody to focus on, and it can't be the same rail every time. Good example, the podcast Chapo Trap House versus the podcast, their sister podcast called Cumtown. Yes, I know, the real shows. Chapo Trap House stays focused on entertainment. Cumtown focuses on being entertained. Also, everyone on Cumtown canonically looks like a child molester. I'm not saying that they are. None of them are. But they look like one. Sometimes these shows have the same people on, but it's night and day. Chapo pulls from everywhere to try and present a show hosted by multiple people that has genuine entertainment value. They write up their notes beforehand, they practice their spiels beforehand, and they genuinely do knock it out of the park 50% of the time. Or at least they did back in the day. It's rough for them these days, but we're actually working on coming back together. The rebirth of Emperor Trump has allowed them to come back from the ashes like so much of a phoenix. Because they were cooked. They were cooked. And God bless Matt Christman for telling people, hey, you don't got to pay attention to politics anymore. You know, we tried. We tried to get Bernie in there. Didn't work. So don't worry about it. Don't go forming Chaz. Don't go burning the country down. Just don't worry about it. And because of that, instead of getting focused on Democrats, people were more focused on the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. And that is really good. That is really intelligent. Unfortunately, Matt Christman had a stroke. You probably know this from like my first 5 episodes talking about my inspirations here. But he's recovering and he's raising a kid, and God bless him, because you can see when he comes back on the show, he's like doing good for a while, and then it starts to like, you know, sink out. So he has waves. He goes through waves where he has a little bit of trouble speaking, and then he's just like his old self, and then has a little bit of trouble speaking. Hopefully those waves, those troughs start to narrow, and it becomes more frequent where he is just on the ball. That would be great. That'd be wonderful. You know, we differ on a lot of things, but at the end of the day, the love is still there. You know, we still have a similar goal. I just believe that every single goal that he wants to accomplish can also be accomplished through a revival of Christendom. It does not need to transform into a new system with a new prophet and new values, when ultimately the values are the same and the goal is the same. If you know, if it's to believe that people are truly Marxist and not just doing it specifically to undermine societies, weave crime and financial ruin into those societies, extract those societies' willpower as if those entire countries were slave colonies, farming sugarcane. Some people are saying that they're Marxists or that they're capitalists, and ultimately they don't care about these two philosophies of modernism, because they're both philosophies of modernism, just going separate ways. Their specific goal is an entirely selfish one. And those people can be cut out of both situations. And the main goal is to make society better. And as long as we work, you know, the Christians can work on one side and the socialists can work on the other. And as long as they don't go full red Marxist and start attacking the Christians, I feel like we could make society better. But that's neither here nor there. You know, just my little spiel on the opinion, just my little fence-sitting centrist opinion. Got a bunch of those. It is what it is. I got nothing but love for Matt Christman. Cumtown is friends laughing at each other's jokes and sometimes laughing when nothing funny is happening at all, and it ends up coming off as incredibly juvenile and also creepy, especially when it's just constant rolling, giggling constantly. It's creepy, genuinely creepy. Like, my entire life I would have found that sort of behavior creepy, off-putting. I like well-directed streams, not 2 to 4 guys showing up at the end of the day with the intentions of essentially just hanging out in public. No hate on podcasts on right. There was a time when I hadn't laughed for months, if not years. I can't quite remember how big that space of time was when my dog was dying and then everybody was abandoning me. And then my dog died and I pulled myself up a little bit and I got on Kiwi Farms and things got much, much better for me. And then they contracted again. And they're getting better now. I joined Kiwi Farms after that, during the golden age of the website, and I found out I was just in a humorless environment, you know? Laughing at Chapo's jokes really helped pull me up out of that depressive state. It was multiple different things. Later on, I would be watching Bren Daniels streams on Twitch, and that would help me maintain my sanity when I was going through all the crap that I was going through with Kiwi Farms in 2023, because it's just like, I'm very dedicated to this. My parents know that I'm very, very dedicated to this. People in my church think that I'm going up to Wyoming to be some successful, you know, right-wing champion, is how I framed him for the longest period of time, to be his registered agent and to help him out fighting the good fight. I'm not sure how much of that I was wrong on and how much of that I was right on, but I do still have hope. I have hope that in the next year, Null will understand that Zionism was in the recent times, a flash in the pan, that it wasn't some burgeoning movement of this world bestriding force that's, being born right in front of our eyes. It is literally a 80-year project collapsing in on itself, which is a tale as old as time for the exact people that make it up. And that when he sold out a lot of the things that he said that he stood for, specifically so he could get big donations from these people, he hurt himself more than he financially gained, and that he comes clean, and genuinely, I'm not joking, that he comes clean and apologizes to everybody about that. I don't even care about how he wronged me. Yeah, so what? You told a lie. Who cares? That isn't as important as the issue on the agenda right now, which is the fact that you have one group of people who is just mercilessly slaughtering children, women, innocent men who are non-combatants, just mercilessly slaughtering them. And if anybody was doing that to your family, to your friends, to your society, you would damn well want, morality and decency to be evoked out of the human zeitgeist. Because naturally in nature, it's harder to find such things as morality. In many cases, it is an early Darwinist free-for-all. But in other cases, it's cooperation. And if you mess up your cooperative function, say you're a chimpanzee, you gain power in your troop, you take everything and give nothing back, you're a tyrant, your troop will literally wait till you're tired, tear you limb from limb. That's a form of cooperation. In fact, with that, you can kind of see how Marxism, is born. It's born through that exact instinct that the chimp troop has when the chimp leader is acting incredibly foolish and is ruling through violence and is not being a good leader. A good leader in the animal kingdom is somebody who's quiet, protective, and that's basically it. Quiet, protective, a decent level of natural strength, but mental quickness and braveness as well. That's what makes a good leader in the animal kingdom. And there is cooperation in the animal kingdom. And if we can't be better than animals, as in we can never cooperate, it's all just free-for-all, man, stuff like that. That's exactly the fallen state Sodom and Gomorrah lived in. That's exactly why the Canaanites are such crazy and insane and evil people. That's exactly why Abraham said, I will move away from this, despite the fact that it has an opportunity for me to be comfortable. This is deeply wrong and immoral, and, killing children was part of that immorality recognized 5,000 years ago. So, that's that. That's also where I first learned the word miscegenated, which is apparently a word of Jewish origin. I learned that on the Kiwi Farms. Fascinating, huh? I'd say so. A Zoomer Buddhist would say things like, the harder you lock in, the harder you crash out. Ironically, after saying that bit of sage wisdom, I gotta lock in harder. The entire spirit of this project is to speak in an inspiring way, like how my main inspiration, Matt Crispin, did on his Kush vlogs, which came out when, Trump lost. However that happened. Technically, the scoreboard says, So, Woodstock 99 is really the perfect event to ring in the postmodern American era. Which, mind you, Israel only started to go gaga in 1987. And that says a lot about our culture and where it's gone and why and to whose benefit does these conspiracies consistently and repeatedly play out. And mind you, that only, Israel was ascendant after the Kennedy assassination, and they were really ascendant after 87. And George W. Bush was probably the peak. And we've been downhill ever since. No joke. No joke. And there's nothing more rapid downhill than the swing between Trump, Biden, and then Trump again. Because they would have never gotten Trump back in there if they had any way to stop it. Any way to stop the avalanche, which, of course, pathetic little, leak arms do not have the ability to withstand a Trump avalanche. And now they're seeing, now Trump is seeing, things are much, much different than when I left. You guys were given the world on a silver platter. What'd you pay for that? What'd you pay for that? What did you give my country for that? Oh, you just took from my country? You manipulated this old man that I talked circles around during the debate I actually felt sorry for? You manipulated him into robbing my country? Okay. All right. I see how it is. And there really is, they're really, really reporting on this, that yesterday Trump has stopped talking to Netanyahu, who's moving away from him. Oh yeah, Woodstock 99. Like, when I say modern, that includes the 40s, that includes the 20s, essentially back to 1890. And this all having to do with the Lincoln assassination being the greatest signifying year for modern America, or modernity in America, when we became a global debt holder and started steaming towards the Gilded Age. But Woodstock was originally a real countercultural event where just a bunch of people showed up, then a bunch more people showed up to watch, and it just went like that for a while. Say what you want, but it was truly novel. Woodstock 99 had a dramatically different vibe, one focused more on filth for its own sake. Victim of the times, yes, but also a signifier that nostalgia was going to be used to sell you substandard things from then onward. Yep, Tommy Tudor also got a start there. In Woodstock 99. He's very old, so it's wild to guess what the heck he was doing in the original Woodstock. Probably, like, maybe living a normal life. Maybe something horrendous happened to him in the 80s and 90s. Maybe he, as a Jewish person, was aware of what was happening to Israel in 1987 and spent the next decade thinking that he owned the planet and that he was, God's chosen little special boy and things like that. If he's not the perfect harbinger for Woodstock 99, I don't know what is. On that topic, great timing on the Tommy Tudor drop for Turkey Tom, since Tommy's apparently trying to sell fentanyl at the moment. Not so good 5-hour Boss Man drop. Since Austin is dealing with rehab right now, that was actually you gotta give people the opportunity to respond to these things. Which, it's funny because his original response to the original one was just like, this guy's weird, dude. I was one of the first people to comment on the Bossman Jack thread. I was just like, yes, I was waiting for this thread. Because really, like, that's a diamond in the rough right there. That guy gives very similar energy to original Chris. As in, he is a train. He's going in his own direction. There's all sorts of antics around the tracks. But that train is going to be there. It's going to be going. And it's going to be on those tracks day after day after day after day. And, we're just along for the ride to see exactly what happens. That's how original Chris was. Now, we all know that Chris' story essentially ended with Isabella Yonka. It's something I think about all the time. It's just like, how would have life been different if this federal agent's child, animal abusing monster who doesn't bathe, hadn't groomed Chris with literature, Freudian literature, into having sex with his elderly, demented mother, which she egged on by inviting Chris to sleep in her bed when Bob died. Bob passed away, rest in peace, Bob. Although, he shouldn't have cheated. God has wrath. It is what it is. It's just something to think about. Anyways, I think a big liability AI brings to the round table of our cranked up society is the same issue that happened with society around the late medieval era, when we just lost the ability to create extremely high quality concrete that would last for thousands of years, like the ancient Greeks learned how to make, likely from the Babylonians, who themselves had likely absorbed 30,000 or so years of knowledge sharing between Egypt and India and China. Excuse me. The direction we're heading in production is not new ideas with novelty and pizzazz, but whatever amalgam the AI decides is the most viable to invest in, hybridized from old concepts and sold with nostalgia. That takes the onus off of inventing and shifts it towards patent numbers, so the shifting baseline is more Legos than sculpting. That's what people grow up becoming accustomed to. Like, I don't create the Legos, I create sets with the Legos, and I follow the instructions to make those sets, and I'm no longer creating anything, I'm no longer creative. That's the shifting baseline that children are saddled with generation after generation. In time, the overall pool of ingenuity will lessen, the same as modernity always does. And funny enough, it's so funny that the lowest IQ states are the ones filled with Silicon Valley yuppies like California and Hawaii. And the highest IQ states are Montana and Maine. You would have never guessed something like that. It's like opposite of what you would guess, but these are what the tests show. That places with an extreme environmental necessity creates high social intelligence, and the places with incredibly low environmental intensity and incredibly high built-up society pave paradise, put up a parking lot, and now you're dealing with a bunch of putzes. That's essentially what we're seeing. I hate to be that guy, right? But there are genuinely so many good American companies that don't rely on Chinese textile imports to upcharge you 500% for garbage. You know, I got brands like Burt's Bees. That comes to mind. There's tons of others, too. Which way, Western man? Teddy Fresh or Burt's Bees? The choice is yours. Not all small businesses are created equally. Keep that in mind. Mom and pop shops usually source locally, the equivalent of native plants that exist in a balanced ecosystem. A lot of the repackaged mongers just take up space, resources, and flood us with junk like invasive species. You know, Americans eat really good. Duh. But we are not found wanting... Americans eat really good. We are not found wanting by our own merits. Only when we like to LARP as Atlas do we end up encountering issues. We can stand up on our own. And it's not the entire world with their hands out. It's us virtue signaling around the entire world. That's a big issue. And we should be very concerned with the quality of our work instead of the quantity of our reach. I always found that little badge with the octopus saying nothing is out of our reach. I found that a little silly. Like, settle down, you guys. You know, you're typing at a keyboard right now. You're not you're not in the network. You haven't synced your brain into like this global network with, like, you know, you can get around all the firewalls. You can see everything in an instant on a micron. You know, not even close, buddy. Not even close. I can't believe RFK doesn't know the key difference between fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins. Let me tell you guys something very important. This is the most important thing involving vitamins. Fat-soluble vitamins, like vitamin A, do not get flushed out of the body when you overdose on them. Water-soluble vitamins, like the B vitamins that turn your pee highlighter yellow, are water-soluble, do get flushed out of the body when you take too many of them. That's why if you look on a B vitamin multi-complex, sometimes some of the B vitamins will have like 10,000%. Now, mind you, B vitamins work in a complex. They work all together. So it's better to not overdose on any one particular B vitamin. Otherwise, it could throw off your entire, you know, very important B vitamin setup for your mental and physical health. So B complexes I'd actually advise against. I'd advise towards getting just a regular multivitamin, and that way it will use your B vitamins alongside, in a complex, alongside other vitamins, and it will just be way better for your overall health, instead of a weird pick-me-up that gets infused into your food so that you're constantly eating one or two B vitamins, but you're constantly deprived on the other because they're all trying to work together. Like, you get B6, and you're trying to upcycle B12 and you're out of it, and so you end up B12 deprived afterwards. That's a big issue. But all of those are water soluble, so you can essentially take as much of those as you want without suffering physical injury. If somebody were to cut open a polar bear, take their liver out, and start eating it, they would be dead within, dozens of minutes because they would overdose on vitamin A. Polar bears hardly get any sun where they live. And so their livers naturally create vitamin A and store it. And it's so rich in vitamin A, people have known this for a long time. It'd be funny to be the first person to find that out, that polar bear livers are so heavy in vitamin A that they are literally toxic and you can't eat them without dying. You take a couple of bites, you overdose, you end up getting sick. So I cannot believe that he's legitimately recommending vitamin A without preaching more the issues with fat-soluble vitamins. I really hope for the boy because, gosh, it is way different on RFK than I expected. Better than how I expected with Trump. If my dad and I had made a bet, he would have won. Much better in the case of Trump. And if I would have made a bet with somebody that RFK was going to be really, really good, I would have also lost. But we'll see. Maybe he'll be around another 2 or 3 years, maybe even 4 years. Maybe we'll see a drastic change. Let's try to stay positive and stay focused. I've said a lot of prayers over the last couple of days, and I think they worked. I think this is a good pope. I think God really, leaned on the scales a little bit for this guy. We'll see. We'll see. It's funny that only 1 in 10 Zionists is female, yet neo-Nazis are obsessed with Jewish matrilineal theories. Isn't that crazy? But yeah, I really hope that RFK isn't one of those people who doesn't know what germs or cancer is caused by and thinks everything is caused by parasites and stuff like that. There are people out there like that. And it's a very, very scary thing. As somebody who is the son of a microbiologist, I know for a fact. I've seen them with my own eyes through a microscope. I know about germs. They are real. Journey Through the Microcosmos is a now retired show with a lot of good episodes still on from 3 or 4 years ago. I would strongly suggest checking out. There's a whole world down there. There's a whole world of microscopic organisms every single where you go. And the knowledge of that is one of the things of ecosystematics and science in general that literally makes my head spin when you really sit down and think about it. And I can know that and not be germophobic, like Trump is germophobic. Pete Hegseth, the opposite, does not wash his hands because he doesn't believe in germs. But I'm not applying that to RFK. I'm just worried. Okay, I don't want to hear anybody. I don't want to hear a word from the mouth of a person that sold a supplement that people didn't know about 40 years ago to try and solve all the issues that just so happened to start up around the same time where we introduced petroleum-based food dyes into the diet of the average American. I don't want to hear anything from them. I don't want to hear anybody selling extremely expensive supplements. I don't want to hear a word from them. You can say, oh, this, that, and the third, this might be good for you. You might want to look into this. You might want to run this through your blood work and see if this works. I do not respect people saying, this is the cure to all your ailments, this snake oil that I'm selling. It's only $80, but I can sign you up for a subscription service and get $10 off if you just sign up for 3 months with a recurring payment afterwards. It's just you can go. We do not need to hear you in medical science. Thank you. Bye. But yeah, it's funny that 1 in 10 Zionists is female. Hating women is super ultra low aura behavior from any man. Hate the last man that she was influenced by if you're really all that bent out of shape about it, my bro. Really, it's super ultra low aura behavior, especially in young men, right? You're nobody's husband, bub. You don't get to say my wife this, my wife that, even though they shouldn't. They have a right to, because they live with them and they put up with them and they have to deal with all the unseen women stuff that dating bachelor guys don't ever really get to see. But a young incel sort of guy who hates women, very creepy, very unattractive, just across the board. I really do not understand how gay guys, like, exist and continue this weird cycle of not liking women. Not saying that all gay guys hate women, some of them do, but not liking women and instead liking themselves, a reflection of themselves, because I see a lot of that. And I don't know, that's objectively worse of the two genders. That's the one you're gonna pick. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Speaking of, if you only have 4 words to say before judgment, don't say FAFO. Say, which way, Western man? Trust me, that one's better. Gonna stop complaining and excusing myself for my shortcomings on stream. You don't hear. Oh, guys, sorry, I didn't stream. No, I just... No. Shut up. Take your time. Fix your issues. Keep moving. Stop belly aching. That's what I'm gonna do. Sorry if you picked up a little banging and booming in the background there. I'm doing some laundry. Catching up. Finally, I think I fixed the issue with the dryer, so it should be working perfectly fine. Oh, got a lot to catch up on now. But I'm halfway done through it. All right, y'all. Cheers.